If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
Hey, everybody. It's Mind Pump
Hi, guys.
time. Look, for the first 43 minutes, we don't talk a whole lot about fitness, but we do have fun. It's our introductory part of our episode. Here's what we talked about for the first 43 minutes. We start out by talking about Justin's Brain FM focus. He's been using brain.fm.
I got some hacks for you guys.
Some of that music to get him more focused. We love their product. If you go to brain.fm/mindpump, you'll get 20% off. They have focus. They have beats that will help you sleep, and more and much more. Then we talk about Justin's burger post. He did a cheeseburger post. You want to guess who the buns were?
Hey.
You will never guess. Then we talked about Goodwipes. That's our good friends that we worked with a long time ago. They're now at Target. Adam called this a long time ago. He was using baby wipes on his delicate butthole years ago.
Yeah.
Then we talked about Planet Fitness taking over. Damn it. I bring up an artificial...
We're losing, everybody.
I bring up an artificial sweetener study. We talk about the Game 7 of the Sharks. Great basketball game. Then we talked about...
Dude, stop.
Sorry. Yeah. Then we talked about Organifi's new liver detox supplements and how we like to use it, or how we're going to try using it when we drink alcohol. Organifi, of course, makes amazing organic supplements, including protein powders, green powders, red powders, gold powders, and, of course, their liver detox. If you go to Organifi.com/mindpump and use the code mindpump, you'll get 20% off. Then Justin brought up Disney's Mandalorian. That's a new series. Yeah. We talk about John Travolta's super creepy Instagram page. And then Justin rants about the homeless people in Santa Cruz.
I went off in this intro, didn't I?
It was a good time.
Yikes.
Then we get into the fitness part of this episode. The first question, we discuss the differences between a strict overhead press and a push press. We talk about the benefits and the detriments of each and when to use each. The next question was, this person is trying to burn body fat. Is progressive overload, aka lifting weights, as important as a caloric deficit, or is it just the caloric deficit that matters? The next question was, we talk about running all the time, but what about walking? What are some pointers that we can give for walking correctly, and what are the benefits of walking on your health, fat loss, and muscle gain? And the final question, this person's a personal trainer. They have a client that wants super intense boot camp style classes, but that's not appropriate for them. How can they communicate to this client that they need to be doing different workouts for their goals? Also, this month, our most effective fat burning program in the short term that we have is MAPS HIIT, and it's 50% off. Now, HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. This program is designed all around that with barbells, dumbbells, and body weight. There's 3 levels of fitness in this program. It's very well made. It's made for those of you who want to burn body fat quickly. Remember, it needs to be done appropriately, though. This program, half off. Here's what you do. Go to mapshiit.com, MAPSHIIT.com, and use the code HIIT50, HIIT50, for the discount. Also, if you want to check out our other MAPS programs, we have other MAPS programs for different goals. Just go to mapsfitnessproducts.com.
Hit me up. So soothing.
Is that focus?
Yeah. This is like, okay. So if you're a professional Brain FM user like myself, you've gone through like the focus sessions, but you realize there's more music options.
Yeah, you got to teach me how to do that, because I was trying to find it after the last time you showed us, and I can't find where
under focus or whatever. There's different categories, and that's the classical. That's the one I use, the classical focus.
Dude, I can't even tell you. Like, I use it like almost every day. Like every time I'm reading something, I just put that in the background, and it helps to kind of block out all this like noise and distraction. But yeah, that's my favorite section. You have to go to like the right hand corner for the drop down menu.
Oh, where the more at. Okay.
Yeah, you do more, and then like there's even like nature, and there's all kinds of other different options for focus, and some of the other ones like the meditation, and so they give like even more. I don't even know if people know that. Like it's more than just like the 5 options they give.
It works. Yeah. The science freaks me out a little bit.
I know it works almost too well.
Well, that's
dude.
what I'm saying. Like, that's you know what they say: with great power comes great responsibility, or as Jim Quick would say, with great responsibility
comes
great power. Yeah, reverse it.
Mind blown.
Yeah, no, it works so well. It's a little bit like that. Science is a little bit scary.
I know it's interesting. Yeah, you just imagine them playing it on loudspeakers to like a crowd or something. And everybody's like, yeah,
I will buy products from you.
I will do anything.
But it fucking works, dude. So if
Justin's been on.
I love it, dude.
Justin's been on fire, dude. Did you see the burger post that he had made?
No. The one with the bun where Doug's the bun.
Oh, dude. Everybody thought
I was roasting everybody.
Everybody thought that was a Butcherbox ad that they had created, and that was just something that Justin had created. But man, it went gangbusters on there. It's still going.
You came up with that when we were at Oakland, right?
Yeah, when we were having our little retreat.
Dude, that was
business retreat.
That was hilarious.
This is what Justin does well. We'll be talking about something, and then out of nowhere,
I go off in the corner.
We're like a burger.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? He's like, you're the meat. Yeah,
it's not so stupid. Like when you say it like that.
He's like, Sal, you're the lettuce.
But it's true.
I'm like, Adam, how many fucking edible
chocolates
did you give up?
comes to me in waves, dude. You know what I mean? Like I can't stop it. I got like waves keep coming right now.
That's creative brilliance. It's like 100 things that nobody understands. One home run.
I'm just glad we're in a place that you can
Right.
give it to somebody can create it for you, and then it can come to life.
I know, because before that, it's hard to describe. I'm like, guys, no, listen, this is how I want it.
I remember
it doesn't work.
There were two ideas that I remember. The one was the time you were explaining ramp water. Everybody knows that. Then the other one was when we were
epic fail
when we designed Maps Prime. And we were writing Maps.
The compass part.
It was by far the hardest program we've ever did.
Dude, we were really stretching ourselves.
And Justin disappears. He goes it was like 2.5 hours. You were just in your own world.
I was trying to make sense of it.
And he comes back and he's like, we're going to design this like color graph and this. Adam and I are like, what is that?
I was trying to organize it. I'm like, and then there's this compass and the wheel. We actually ended up using the compass. Just the term of it. But anyways, that's how my brain works.
He had like 2 or 3 pages written of stuff.
I know.
Like hella deep, dude.
Way too far.
Yeah. You ever think of like inventions or ideas that are ahead of their time and then 50 years later, they come out with it, and they're like, "Fucking that dude said that shit 50 years ago."
What are you talking about, dude? Like, I am that guy. Come up with stuff way too ahead of its time. That is 100% me.
You're too brilliant.
It's just too much. It's too much. It's like, Smashing Pumpkins is kind of an example, but I feel like they're way ahead of their time. But they are still popular, though.
Yeah. What are some examples of that? I'm trying to think of examples of when people came out with things, and it was just too. Like, wasn't the Macintosh Lisa, that was kind of ahead of its time, right? Wasn't that the first?
That was a fail, yeah.
It was the first like personal computer that was kind of, and he was on the right track.
He was definitely on the right track, but it took a while to refine that idea.
Yeah. There's a few other examples I can't think of right now. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, but it worked, dude. The burger.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
What is it again?
Good when one lands.
What is it again? It's Adam is the sauce.
Adam's the sauce. I mean, we knew that. Like, you provide the nutrients.
I'm the lettuce. Yeah. I'm the thin piece of lettuce.
Yeah. Like you nourish us. Yeah. And then I'm like the tasty fat. Like anything cheese and bacon related.
Of course.
And then Butcherbox was like the natural, go-to for the meat.
Doug's the buns that hold us together.
Doug's the buns that ties us all together. Like
that could have easily been you, though. You could also be the buns for obvious reasons.
No, Doug is that.
He holds it together.
Yeah, because it's
but Justin's the flavor of the show. Dude.
Of course, but I'm thinking buns. I'm doing more of a direct. You know what I'm saying?
You get the spicy sauce, and you know what I'm saying.
That's why that's so much better. That's the obvious thing. Everybody makes the butt jokes on Justin, which I'm sure he's like.
I'm like, okay, all right, dude. Let's cheese butt, and like what in Star Wars. That's gonna be on my fucking tombstone.
It'll just.
I'm gonna have like a peach emoji, cheese, and some Star Wars character.
We're all gonna be like sad and stuff. And you lower him in there on the tombstone.
I'm like, that's what I left the world.
Like Justin, cheese, butt, and Star Wars. Anyway,
do you see our boys? Do you see our boy Sam over with Goodwipes?
Goodwipes,
dude! Yeah, so cool to see them, man.
They're in Target.
Yes, every Target. That's huge, dude.
That's major.
It's cool because that was one of the very first companies.
They were one of the first ones to want to work with us.
Yeah, we linked up with them way early on at Mind Pump before we were doing any sort of advertising or marketing with anybody. and they were just a baby company. We were a baby company, and just loved what they were doing. I loved their message. I'm a wipes guy. That's how we got connected after that episode that we did.
Oh, it made way too much sense. I mean, that was your whole thing in the beginning, was like trying to convince people, like, get rid of, the toilet paper. There's other options.
Yeah, but I love the. I mean, I don't know the last time you guys had checked up on them, but their marketing is really cool. So they got like little sayings on all the packages that you open up, and they're funny and witty, and their advertising's on the edgy side, kind of like Liquid Death. So they're making some cool moves, man. So super proud of those guys. Shout out to them, man.
How many Target stores are there?
A bajillion.
There's tons, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much going to guarantee that you're going to sell way more.
It's one of the few retail stores that's still kicking ass. Like all the rest of them are like pretty much dinosaurs now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were texting back.
There's over 1,800.
Yeah, just to fill those orders has to be insane. Can you imagine what it would be to just fill that?
Gosh,
just fill the order, because obviously every store wants more than two.
I wonder
I
wonder if they did a test first. I'm sure they did, right? They tested a few stores.
Yeah, well, I knew they were. I think they got into CVS first for some locations, but the Target was the big. To be in every single Target is a big fucking deal. That's a really cool, and it's cool because
that's a growing market, right? The whole wet wipe for adults.
Yeah,
because I didn't hear anything about it 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when I first told you were like, "What?"
Yeah,
well, because they got to be flushable, right? Because that was the thing. It was like you don't want to just like wipe and then throw it in the trash can. It's nasty.
I was in.
It was so gross.
Yeah,
what's in your garbage? Oh,
don't worry about it. There's like flies.
Yeah. I remember when I first met you, Adam. I come to your house and I walk in your bathroom. I'm like, they don't have kids. Why are there kids' butt wipes here in front of the toilet? This is weird, kind of weird. What does he use it for? I'm thinking bodybuilding stuff. Like, does he use it like
baby
to wipe?
Wipes,
I'm like, does he use it to wipe off like the tanning stuff? Or I don't know. This is kind of weird. And then you told us why you use it, and I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I've been on that for like
sense.
Fuck, I'm 30, so it's 15 years now.
You've been using it for 15 years.
15 years, yeah. I was it was a stripper tip,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah. It was back
when you were stripping.
Yeah, no.
Stock advice.
Back when I was dating strippers.
When you were doing the spread on the pole dance or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, but it was some of the best. It was some of the best advice that was ever given to me, man. I pass that along to any dude. Like nobody wants their business smelling like yucky poo. You know what I'm saying? Like
yucky poo.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
yucky poo.
Yeah, way to kill the mood for your girl. You know what I'm saying? She goes downtown. It's like, oh, bro.
Yeah, you got the yucky poo going on.
Yeah, man.
Do you start with the regular toilet paper and then finish with I forgot you had a strategy.
Yeah, I conserve. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to waste. So I use one of the little wipies after the fact. Sometimes it needs two. Just depends.
Depends on what you ate the day before.
Yeah, it depends.
That's terrible.
Mud butt.
What's up? What did you post about Planet Fitness, our favorite gym of all time?
Oh, dude. It's tough. It's tough to hate on them because we hate their strategy. But as far as a business, they're crushing, dude. They're opening up 200 and this week, right? They'll be opening up, this week they said that they're going to be opening up 225 gyms just this year alone. So they're going to be
this year alone.
Yes,
aren't they taking over all the old
Toys R Us and the old Sears?
Oh, I hate them even more now.
I know.
Toys R Us is fucking.
I would much rather have Toys R Us.
Well, you remember that was the strategy. I remember talking to Mastroff and those guys. Like when you do that, it's so much cheaper to go into a facility like that and outfit it for a gym than it is to build a gym ground up. So
that's smart.
Taking advantage of the real estate. They have 1,800 locations right now already. So 1,800.
Damn.
And then they're opening up another 225.
Are they a franchise or private?
No, they're public. They're publicly traded.
Public.
400%. The stock has increased over the last 4 years.
Gosh,
dude, they don't even have squat racks there, though, right? They have Smith machines,
and you can't do deadlifts. You're not allowed to do deadlifts. And if you work out, people have messaged me that they've gotten warnings for being really muscular wearing a tank top.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, you're intimidating our members." I don't understand. Look, you're a private organization. You kick, I don't care. You want to kick whoever you want out. That's up to you. However, I don't like the double standard. Right. Could you imagine if they went up to somebody and said, "Hey, you're too overweight," but because this person's muscular, they can say, "You look too a particular way. We need to kick you out."
Yeah. And what happens when one of their members starts getting really good results?
They leave.
Oh wait, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, the model, well, think about it. The big box model has been for a long time, sell as many memberships as possible and make sure that they don't use the gym.
Well, they've
capitalized on it.
They took that to the extreme, right?
That's right.
I mean, they charge $10 a month, and they are targeting what I think is 86% is what I saw the stat of the average non-gym goer. So that's who they're going after. They're not going after all the people.
They're not fighting for the same scraps.
No, they're not fighting for all the people that already have gym memberships. They're looking to try and entice the people that are on the fence or probably never even really thought about going to the gym, but go, oh, wow, for $10 a month and I get free pizza, that pretty much cancels it out. That's a no-brainer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's literally the model is you $10 a month and, oh, by the way.
Once a month or whatever.
Yeah, once a month we have unlimited pizza. And you're like, well, shit, I can do the math here. I normally pay $2, $3 a slice. I could eat 4 or 5 slices. I mean,
it makes a lot of sense.
I mean,
at the end of the day,
maybe one day I'll go to the gym to work out. I don't know, but I'll definitely go down there and get some pizza.
And it's so cheap that because the model has always been that it's too inexpensive to cancel. So here you are, you're at home, you're looking through your bank account, and you see, oh, there's that gym membership I keep paying. I haven't gone for 6 months. And then you think to yourself, it's only $10 a month.
Yeah.
And you know what? They got free pizza. I can go down there if I want and have free pizza. And I probably should work out. I'll just keep it. It's so cheap that you don't cancel it.
It's a brilliant model from a business perspective.
Did you see
just hate to see it.
Did you? I don't know if you guys. Somebody sent me a message from their Planet Fitness where they had the unlimited pizza day, and there was a sign that said 2 slices per person, please. I guess people were going in there and
of course
going hog wild.
Yeah, and they were going nuts on.
That's what you get. You're attracting those people. I guarantee there is a good portion of those people that sign up for that exact reason.
Sure.
I mean, that's
there are some people that go though and are very. I've worked with people that are very consistent.
No, of course we have members that. I mean, we have listeners that tell me that Planet Fitness is the only gym.
It's the only option,
right in their area. So
I get that.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. I get that a lot. They're the only gym in my area. Yeah. That's got to be part of their strategy is to go to these towns that don't have a big box options. Gym, right? And then they open it. They open it with in these towns without any clubs, so they can attract all these people for cheap.
Yeah.
No, interesting.
It's a brilliant model.
Very interesting. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, did you guys see the artificial sweetener study that came out? That's just another one.
So I saw it on our forum, and I saw the pushback. The Lane fans, the correlation causation thing.
No. What it is so here's the thing with artificial sweeteners. The current research shows that it's probably not toxic. Highly likely that it's safe for when it's used for the amount of time that they study them for, which, these studies are typically, months or whatever. They're not these super long-term, controlled studies. And that's because it's real hard to do. It'd be really hard to do this really long controlled study on humans without having them live in a laboratory and do all that stuff.
So what exactly is it saying?
Well, it's just another study that shows that people who consume lots of artificially sweetened products are heavier. They gain more body fat. And it's part of the reason. I don't know if it's the artificial sweeteners. I doubt it. Although there are some studies that show that there's some interesting insulin resistance effects on the microbiome of the gut. I don't think that's what's causing the weight gain, though. Although that's something you want to pay attention to. I think it's what we've all experienced as trainers, training people. I know that when I have clients who go and consume lots of artificially sweetened sodas and drinks and foods, that it only gets them to eat more of other foods. It gets them to crave more of these sweet foods. It's a hyper-palatable type of food. It's not part of a good food relationship, and people just tend to consume more calories as a result. And so I putting artificial sweeteners or artificially sweetened sodas in somebody's nutrition plan as part of their healthy nutrition plan or as a part of a plan to help them get in better shape, it's kind of weird. I don't think it's a good strategy. Never did.
No, I think it's a terrible strategy.
You guys ever have clients that use them and it's real successful and whatever? Or typically, doesn't it turn into a kind of a replacement, but then they add other stuff into their diet? That's usually what I see.
Yeah, because it's all about the flavor still, like all that stuff. Like it's just like it reinforces that sort of mentality.
Yeah, I think what we have to understand.
You said something a while back, Sal, that I think is just this is the way I think I like to try and live my life, which is this philosophy of instead of like until it's proven that it's going to hurt you, I'm going to do it. I'm the other way around. Like I'd rather be on the safe side, and until it's proven that it's healthy or good for me, I'd rather
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, like it's the opposite. I think
I'm that way too,
and I think I think for fitness people and that are fitness leaders in our space, I just think it's irresponsible to push that agenda that, oh, it's totally fine. It's like, well, we don't know enough for us to be sure of that, and I'd rather be completely sure before I say that to someone. And so, and I've openly admitted on the show before about drinking Diet Cokes, and that's been like an addiction of mine for a very long time. And I'm very aware of it. Like it's one of those things that when I allow it in the house, it can go from one every other couple days a week to all of a sudden 3 in a day. I mean,
right. So,
I watch myself scale to that relatively fast. And we, right now we're on one of our breaks from them. So I don't have them in the house right now, and I haven't had them for a few weeks now. But after a while, Katrina will say, hey, do you want to do any Diet Cokes? Do you want any? I'm like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and buy one case and bring it in. And when I bring it in, I do the same. It's like, oh, I haven't been having it, so I'm good. So, only when I'm eating a certain meal that I would crave to normally have Pepsi, I'll have this Diet Coke. Because I prefer, and I've shared this too, because I know you just would drink a regular Coke. I don't like regular Coke. I think it's too sweet. But I like Diet Coke. And so I will drink that, and then what I notice is, because I have the case in the refrigerator or whatever, then the next day I end up having another one, and then the next day after that I have another one. Then a day I notice I have 2, and then I've seen myself get 3 in a day before, and I'm like, damn, that's crazy how fast.
Well, this is a good topic here, because I think people associate the negatives of particular foods solely with the fact that it contains calories or that it contains sugar. But there are other negatives as well. So even though the sodas that you're drinking, Adam, don't have calories in them, so a lot of people are thinking, well, what's the harm? Who cares if you drink a bunch of them? There's no calories. There are other effects, and one of those effects is that how it changes your behaviors. You start with one, and you find yourself having more and more and more of them.
Right.
That bleeds over into other aspects of the way that you eat food and the way you value food. And yes, food can be valued, and it should be at times for its taste and its flavor and the hedonistic value. But if that's all we value, you're never going to get past. You're never going to get to the point where you have a really good, healthy relationship with food. And that's what these things encourage. It's like no consequences. But here's your. You know what it reminds me of? It would be like if we had artificially intelligent robots that seem like humans. And you could be like, hey, have sex with them, murder them, do whatever you want with them. It doesn't matter because the robots are not hurting anybody. Do you really think there would be no negatives, even though you're not hurting a human? Do you really think there's no negatives?
That's a show on Netflix. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh, yeah. God, I forget what it was called, but that was like the whole premise was, that they were replacing everybody with these robots that they could just do whatever they want up in this cloud. And basically there was this whole like thing where they would go up and just do like all that crazy shit, like murder them, rape them, all this kind of stuff. And obviously, that came back to haunt them.
Right.
And it's the behaviors that you're training.
That's it. And so I'm not saying don't do it. It's evil.
I see it. I see it in myself, and here's the thing. I don't think it's right to demonize it. Mm-hmm. I think it could be a lesser evil at times. I don't think it's something that we should be trying to use scare tactics on people. I think right now we have this like extreme. We have like the Lane Norton side of it, which borderline promotes it. And then you have the other side, like the wellness that do the fear mongering. I think that you have these two extremes where I kind of find myself somewhere in the middle of, hey, I recognize this isn't the most ideal thing I could put in my body. I recognize this is probably I noticed it takes away from my water intake. Mm-hmm. If I'm drinking 3 Diet Cokes in a day, I'm most certainly not hitting my gallon of water or whatever I'm doing. So I'm replacing something like water with this Diet Coke. I don't think that's an ideal situation, and I don't know enough about the long-term effects of me consistently doing this. Probably not the greatest thing for me to do, but I'm also not going to beat myself up over it, think it's the worst thing in the world, but I'm going to be aware of it, and I'm going to try and put good habits and behaviors in of not allowing myself to always introduce it into the diet. So I think that's the real answer to this.
And it's our attempt at eliminating all the symptoms of a behavior rather than looking at the fact that the behavior itself can also be a problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, let's look at the behavior. Forget the behavior. You're gaining fat. Let's handle all the facts that you're, all the things that are going to make you fat. That doesn't change the behavior itself can cause other problems. So it's obvious to me that people who consistently consume artificially sweetened sodas and foods also tend to consume more calories in other foods and also tend to not have great relationships to food. And this especially goes to the whole fitness world, where these guys and girls who look shredded or whatever, and because they're able to maintain their calories where they need to be, they have some of the worst food relationships of all time. Lots of binging, lots of restricting, lots of problems around and stress around food. Just because they look shredded doesn't mean that they've solved the issue with food. In fact, like I said, oftentimes they have more issues with food. Right. So anyway, what was you were talking about the game, the Sharks game? Who was talking about that?
Oh, I've got you're so funny. How oblivious you are to what's going on right now. The Sharks are in. So I shared the video last series with the Sharks, right? Did you see that with the Game 7 where we went crazy? That I told you
just beat the Knights.
Oh, right. They said it was like the best game.
Yeah, that was like the all-time best game ever. It was a game. Game 7s already are like, I can only count on one hand probably. Between basketball and hockey and football there's no Game 7 in football, but playoff games that came down to the final game like that I've been to. Baseball would be an example of that. So there, I can only count on one hand. So tonight I'll be at the Game 7 again. So this is the next series. We're playing in Colorado, and we're now down to a Game 7. So I'll be there at home tonight watching that, which is it's do or die. It's do or die.
So they're doing it again where they went all the way.
Yeah. So it's always fun to watch those.
What's
games.
the furthest the Sharks have gotten?
So we've made it all the way down to the semifinals.
Never to the finals.
No, the year that we just had, like, it's been I think it's been 6 years. I want to say. Someone will correct me on that. We lost to the Kings. We were up on them on a series. They came back, won 4 games in a row to beat us. They went on to win the Stanley Cup that year. So that was, like, to me, even though we weren't in the conference finals that year, that was the first or second series we played them, and they went on to win the whole thing. And we were up on them 3-0, and they came back on us and did that, which is
brutal.
Yeah, that was a tough. That was a
so
tough.
If they win this round,
then we go on to the Western Conference Finals, and then you go off to the
Stanley Cup.
So this will be the semifinal. If they win this, they go to semis.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh wow, exciting!
Yeah,
When's the game?
Tonight.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So I'll be there. I'll be there tonight.
And you're hyped.
Look for me. Yeah, I'm totally hyped. I mean, these are my.
What time's the game?
6.
How long does it go till?
Typically 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. Just depends on if it goes to OT or not, or a lot of penalties. Like,
do you find it hard to sleep?
Sometimes, yeah. Because my adrenaline's going afterwards. Yeah, it's a little tough. Like the last one was crazy. I was like hyped all night long.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
yeah. Because I can imagine you're watching. It's the last game.
Oh, Game 7, dude. Everybody's gonna be hyped.
Yeah.
All the players, everybody.
Yeah. Do you drink?
I haven't on the last couple. Sometimes I do. I wouldn't tonight. If it's a game where I got to be back up, I'm gonna be here early tomorrow morning. So
well, I was going to say, if you do drink, have you tested the Organifi detox capsules or whatever?
So I did, not the capsules. I've done the powder where we did the.
No, that's the immunity.
I did the detox the other day.
Because that's their new product. I haven't tried it yet.
No, I haven't tried it.
See, I don't know when's the protocol like to take. I took it like after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if preventatively that might be a better strategy or not. Like, do they say in the directions?
I would assume you would drink it. You would take. It's not specifically for drinking alcohol, but some of the compounds in there. It's got natural diuretic, and it's got.
I was just going to ask you, what's in it?
Milk thistle, dandelion root. I can't remember the rest. Maybe Doug could look it up. But I know milk thistle has been shown to improve liver. Some of the measurements that we use in blood tests for liver values, like some of the enzymes. And milk thistle has been used for a long time for helping people with liver detox. Now, if you drink, obviously, that's why I'm thinking it would make sense.
I know exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Milk thistle has been something that for a long time in the bodybuilding community that you would use whenever you're taking steroids.
Yes, that's right. So they would take it with anabolics to help keep their livers healthy.
Mitigate some of the
Well, it's got
side
antioxidants.
effects.
Now, I don't recommend it for steroids. I don't know how effective milk thistle is, especially if you're taking toxic, things for your liver.
It's been a staple. It still is.
Well, it's okay. So some countries actually prescribe milk thistle for mild elevations of liver enzymes. Then it has the dandelion root, which is a natural diuretic. So it helps rid the body of extra water. It's good for your kidneys. Actually, I could see that being a good strategy for somebody who is bloated, to see if this helps reduce water weight. But I'm interested in this new product. I don't always like the term detox because it gets hammered by people in science. But the ingredients in there are legit, and they are ones that people have used for thousands of years.
Do you understand the mechanisms by which it works? Like, is it like speeding up the process because the liver is supposed to do this anyways, right? So the liver is supposed to be a big filtration system for our body.
I haven't researched milk thistle in a long time, but if I recall, it helps when the liver is detoxing, because that's part of what the liver does.
Maybe a better word is like filter, because isn't that what it's doing really? Is it not really detoxing? It's more like it's filtrating.
I think the kidneys would be considered more filtrating, but I think the liver would do that as well. But from what I remember reading years ago, and I haven't done a lot of research recently on milk thistle, but it helps prevent damage happening to the liver from toxic substances. So like if you drink a lot of alcohol, the liver gets, it detoxes it, right? It detoxes the body.
Yeah,
but if you keep pounding alcohol, the liver gets overwhelmed and it starts to become toxic.
Right, Doug, pull up a picture. I've definitely seen this before. Pull up a picture of like an alcoholic's liver.
Oh, cirrhosis?
Yeah, what it looks like.
Terrible.
Right?
Terrible.
And isn't that one of the first places too that we store fat too, isn't it?
You get fatty liver if you're unhealthy, if you consume. I know consuming too much fructose has been linked to fatty liver disease. Milk thistle supposedly helps with that as well. But there's other ingredients in there that are supposed to be good. And Organifi's reputation so far is that their products deliver. So that's why I said if you're drinking tonight, I'd be interested. Take a few of those and see if you notice, if you feel better the next day from it.
Yeah, no, I'll try it. I know we have them here at the studio, so I'll grab some before I leave. If I drink, I don't know if I'm gonna drink tonight or not.
Yeah.
I wonder if it even makes sense if you're just having a beer too versus if you're having 2 or 3 or 4. It
depends on sensitive. I'm not like this anymore, but I used to be like. Recently. I feel like I tolerate alcohol better, but I do know people that'll have one drink and they'll just feel terrible. The next day.
I know. Some of my friends like that.
Really?
Yeah. Dude, like I marked this date on my calendar just recently because like November 12th, I believe, they're coming out with The Mandalorian. Have you guys even heard about this series that
no, what is that?
Disney's coming out with? It's basically their answer to Game of Thrones, but they're utilizing they're utilizing
the Marvel
Star
characters.
Wars. No, but this is just through the Star Wars universe. So they're using the Mandalorians was like Boba Fett and like all those guys with the helmets and everything. Yeah, so they have this whole world that like they've never even shown this world, and so they're like creating this whole thing with Jon Favreau's the one that's going to be directing it. But apparently, like all the critics and everything are going crazy before it hasn't come out. But like they show screenings for some of these critics, kind of look through and give their feedback, and they're just like, dude, this is groundbreaking.
So this is okay. So I shared this. I didn't know this was the name of it. This is what I talked about a while back when I first was talking about all the moves that Disney was making. The budget is bigger than what Game of Thrones' budget was.
Yeah.
Which that broke all kinds of records on how much money was spent on Game of Thrones. Yeah. This is supposed to rival that.
And so they're shooting it kind of like, I guess, like Avatar, where everything is green screen behind them. So they're able to like get like really crazy expansive with like all these shots and like what they're able to do with it. And
oh, wow, there it is.
Yeah.
You just brought it up.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, and what's cool about it is I liked, you guys like Rogue One. Did you guys watch that one?
I did.
It's kind of like that, but like it's going to be more realistic, less like lightsabers and, fantasy and shit. But like I'm excited about it because it's like it'll show like a whole nother side. Like it's right after Return of the Jedi, basically. It was like it continues on.
And this
from there.
is going to be shown where? Is this on the streaming?
On their planet. I don't remember what the name of the planet is, but it's
No. Like what? Like how do I watch this? It's on Disney.
Yeah, Disney's streaming service that they're coming out with. Like this is like their crown jewel. Like they're coming out with basically.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm super pumped.
Disney's
about
a smart buy, man. Smart buy.
I don't know, Elliott Hulse. I don't see any sexism in this. I don't know, dude.
What is he doing?
I don't know, guy.
What is he doing, man?
Talking about frogs and stuff.
He's like talking about how Disney conditions men because the princess kisses the frog and tells us that we're frogs, that we're ugly, that we need a princess.
Yeah, we're an ugly frog.
And I'm like, come on, dude.
No,
you're going so far now.
Way too far, dude.
Yeah, you're reading real far into this.
Yeah, you know what? It's once you start to go down a particular path and you start to become paranoid and a little bit delusional.
Yeah,
it's really hard to turn someone back because then what ends up happening is if you tell them, "Hey, man, you're being paranoid and delusional." You then become part of the.
You're a target now.
Well, no, you become part of the conspiracy. You become part of the big thing that you're fighting.
You're a shill.
It's very hard to pull someone out of that.
Do you think he's drinking his own Kool-Aid, or do you think that's just a smart strategy? I mean, I feel like that's.
Well, he just decided at one point, like, I just need to be more extreme.
Well, being decisive is like what's so important. Divisive. Sorry, that's what's more important. Is him saying like, okay, making a hard stance on something, and because it's controversial, it gets people talking about it, more people sharing it, whether you agree or disagree.
Well, the way I look at it is anytime you have an extreme movement on one side, there tends to be an extreme reaction on the other side. So what you've had recently is this interesting movement that is coming out that is blaming men for everything and calling everything a patriarchy and everything is oppressive, especially if you're a white male, especially if you're a white Christian male. It's like open season. And so like clockwork, the opposite side would come out where they're going to blame women. They're going to blame feminists. They're going to blame, they're going to use the same tools.
It's the same tactics.
It's the same tactics.
It looks exactly the same. That's what's so frustrating about it.
It's the same reason why you see the extreme version of Democrats, the extreme liberals, coming out right now. It's because they're in reaction to Trump. They're in reaction to his rhetoric. Mm-hmm. So now you have people who are like, oh, I'm an actual socialist and I'm a Democrat. That would have never flown.
Yeah.
Like 7-8 years ago, you said you were a socialist, they wouldn't elect you. Now it's like it's become part of their strategy. And it's just that whole action-reaction thing. Extreme over here, we're going to be extreme over there. You're going to say we're racist, we're going to say you're racist too, but we're going to flip it. And it's going to be this crazy back and forth. So I feel like he's kind of this part of this extreme reaction to an extreme action that's been happening. Not justifying. I think it's equally as silly and crazy.
Yeah, it seems to be getting away from somebody asked in my story what I thought about him. And as far as his fitness advice, man, I tell you what, he had one of the better YouTube channels out there for a very long time as far as putting out really solid, good fitness advice. I mean, when it comes to programming and strength training, I think he's incredibly knowledgeable, and I think that he's one of the few early people in YouTube that was putting out really good information. But like we were saying the other day, I think he's jumped the shark. Mm-hmm. I think he's now he's moving into this political space, which it seems like all these guys tend to do that once they get to a certain size or popularity or fame. That it's like the next natural progression is let's get political and do that type of bullshit.
Say something crazy.
Yeah. I wonder if it's because once you reach a certain, because you got to put yourself in that space, right? Once enough people have told you that everything you say is awesome, and if enough people have told you, oh my God, you've changed my life, whatever. If that starts to go to your head a little bit, and then your other ideas now you think are just as valid.
You've just been sitting on these ideas, just brewing. Like,
right.
People want to know this.
Because they
want to know about frogs.
And oftentimes, exactly.
Fucking princess movies.
And oftentimes, if somebody's really smart in one area, like if you're an amazing artist or an amazing musician or a phenomenal actor, we think that you're really intelligent in other things as well. And you start to believe that yourself. Just because I invented the iPhone doesn't mean that I'm going to, know everything about economics or know, how we should, treat certain problems. Or just because I'm a phenomenal actor doesn't mean I have great opinions on other things. All you know is that I'm a great actor, so just value me for that.
Oh my God! Have you guys seen John Travolta's Instagram that he created?
No.
Like, he
It's
just
kinda
got
weird,
on.
dude.
Dude, it's so.
What now?
Please, and I forget the comedian's name who brought this up, but he took it was like the best thing I've ever seen. Like, it's so awkward, it's so crazy. It's just funny to me to see people who have like they're super famous. And, like he flies his own personal private jets all the time. And he lives like a lifestyle that's just not like, we don't relate to it. And he's trying to be all like relatable and like he stares at the camera way too long and just
It's kind of weird.
It's so weird.
He's like, hey guys,
yeah,
I'm
I really
over.
appreciate the comments and like.
See, look.
Oh, Tom Segura, he's the one that like brought it up. I was dying though. I was like, thank you for this.
It's a little bit weird.
It's
Well, you know what?
strange.
Isn't he like one of the like?
What a lot of these guys are doing.
It's like I like the guy, but it's just so weird.
Taylor and I talk about this actually. Like what, for example, I think Will Smith is doing an incredible job actually. So
Yeah.
you've got a lot of these mega famous people, John Travolta, Will Smith, that were mega famous, 15 years ago, right?
Before all this.
Yeah, before all this. And they're seeing the rise of these, Instagram celebrities, and they're trying to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And
you can see the disconnect though, is what I'm trying to
no,
highlight.
totally.
Yeah.
It's and I agree with you. And I haven't even gone through his page that a lot of them are scrambling. A lot of them are trying to figure out like, how do I stay relevant in this time right now where Instagram people are becoming as famous? And we saw, a microcosm of that is when we went to the Olympia, or I went to the Olympia like 6 years ago. And I remember coming in and seeing, Joey Swole and Devin Physique from Shreds with banners and lines of people more than I saw Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. Nobody was even wanting to talk to them. And there was just lines of people for these fucking kids that haven't done anything. But I mean that we're in that shift right now. So you see some of these guys, starting to realize like, oh shit, if I'm going to keep selling or making money or stay relevant, I've got to make myself into something on social media platforms. And some of them have no fucking clue.
Yeah, and not only that, but
It's great.
a lot of artists and actors they come out of their shell and they're really good at acting a character.
Yeah.
But then when they become themselves, Michael Jackson's a great example. Had you never heard Michael Jackson in an interview and all you ever did was saw him perform, you would think he was this
Charismatic,
extroverted, like whatever. But then you're like, whoa, this guy's kind of weird.
Yeah.
A lot of these actors are like that. So when they do their Instagram themselves, you're like, whoa, it's shocking.
No, I've noticed that, especially with actors, because I mean, that's part of the craft is to be able to become somebody else, and I think a lot of times they forget how to be themselves. They're just like,
Or they're just awkward.
yeah, they just don't.
awkward.
Yeah, it just doesn't gel.
Dude, did you see the article that's being? I think it was shared in our forum, Justin, on the homeless camp in Santa Cruz.
Oh my god.
Oh, you've
Did
talked
you see
about-
how big?
No, I didn't.
I've tried
it's like a
not to
town.
bring this up because I feel like I'm just going to go on a crazy rage and rant about it, because here's what you have to understand. Okay, so this encampment just kind of started out of nowhere. There was like this little adjacent space next to like a little strip mall.
Well, you say it's little. The video showed
It's not little.
it's huge.
Well, it started as little, is what
Okay.
I'm saying. Like there was like one or two tents, and then it became like 50 tents. They smash all in this one specific lot right off the freeway. But the thing is, there's a homeless shelter like designated to help homeless people, literally right across the street. And they just decided that no, they won't let us do drugs in here, so we're going to go right here and just camp.
That's it. Yeah.
And so now they're there doing drugs openly. 3 people died of overdose. What is like some of the community do? Their answer to it was to go give them more needles, fresh needles.
Oh.
And here's the thing. You might think you're doing something good because, maybe they're not going to like share diseases or whatever. But you know where those needles end up? In the fucking creek.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And then into the ocean and where my kids play. And I'm not fucking okay with that.
Yeah, no. In fact, one thing that they did that was insane was,
God, what a
from what I
challenging
read,
situation.
Well,
Yeah.
they gave them a bunch of free needles to prevent the spread of disease, but they didn't do an exchange.
Yeah.
So they didn't ask. Typically, what you
get
do,
rid of the old ones.
Yeah, what you're supposed to do if you're responsible is you give them a needle, but you say, "Give me a dirty one back." They didn't do that. They just gave them a bunch of needles. So all the old ones ended up in the freaking creeks.
What a smart way to fix that! Just simply doing that. Like, here's your.
Well, that's the way they've always done it.
Yeah.
That's the way they've always done it.
But it just kept increasing, and like every time I like drove by, it was just like bigger and bigger, and then finally the community like rallied, and then the court finally the judge ordered that to be moved, and like no, we need to break this up and get and so this took a couple days. I drove by and I saw like a lot of sheriffs out there and some moving equipment, but it was just like, oh my God, like just like so much stuff that was stolen. Yeah. So, you'd like to be like, oh, it's fine. Everything's great. Like they're in their own little thing and they're doing, they were causing a lot they were like going to these like adjacent stores and like pissing all over their, their back room and like doing all kinds of crazy shit, like scaring like all these kids that were like in the area, trying to like take money from people walking by. And it was like, because they're out of their mind, dude. They're on drugs and anyways, it was bad. It was bad, and it's like it's tough because I want to have sympathy and empathy, for people that are down and out. But there was a designated place for that. Like, when can we I'm not going to enable. There's a difference between enabling and then actually providing help and having them move on with their life. I can't put up with it. So I was happy.
That's a tough situation because at some point you're going to be left. So imagine if you have a child who you obviously love and they're just not acting. They're acting extremely irresponsibly. They start doing drugs. They start stealing. At some point, you're left with the decision of cutting the cord. At some point, you have to say, because that's the only way you could possibly help them. Of course, the other side of that is they could get even worse, but that's the only way you could really help them. So it's a tough situation. It's like if you want to help people, you have to ask for a little bit of responsibility back. And the reason why they're not staying in those homeless shelters, and the reason why a lot of them don't stay in homeless shelters, is they get kicked out for doing drugs. Because they'll say, you can't do drugs in here. I'm sorry. Because they ask a little bit of responsibility for the help. And I think that's perfectly fair. What a difficult situation to be in. How do you handle that?
And I don't know where they're going to go either. I just know they finally kind of broke it up. And, who knows? I don't obviously wish any harm to anybody, but we can't have that. We can't just have a crazy that just was causing havoc amongst the entire community.
Yeah, it's become a big problem in California. I know California has, I want to say 1/7, maybe the statistic is, maybe I'm a little off, 1/7 of the nation's homeless people live in California.
A lot of that has to do with, the weather, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't be, it's tough to be homeless in New York City. You know what I'm saying? Not that there's not people that are, but it's like, man, they talk about struggling winters and shit like that.
Yeah, that's rough.
That'll kill somebody. Where out here, it's like, man, especially like Santa Cruz.
You live outdoors.
Yeah, Santa Cruz or San Diego. I mean, year round, what do you have? One night that hits 50 something? The rest of the year, it's like a nice, cool 60 to 80 degrees year round.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
This Quaz brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout.
First question is from John Wilmoth. Can you discuss strict press versus push press, the benefits of each, and when best to incorporate them into your program?
Let's first describe the difference between the two. I think this is something that we get this a lot with our programs because we've incorporated both strict press and push press, and a lot of people don't understand the difference between the two of them.
Right. Mainly just describing one with a hip hinging effect going at the same time versus one not. So strict press meaning we're just trying to kind of isolate and press directly from the shoulder. And with a push press, I mean, you're going to get a lot more of that power benefit to it in terms of like accelerating the bar over your head and incorporating more of your body involved with that exercise.
Yeah, you're essentially, with a strict press, it's just this, you're just standing, you're doing a military press or seated, but we're going to talk about them as both being standing. You're just pressing it up with no other body movement or minimal body movement. A push press, it's like you're boosting the weight up using your lower body to give you that initial boost, and then the goal is to push the weight up with explosive power. I feel like the exercises, although similar, are different. Yes, one can replace the other, but I tend to program them as different exercises. And really, this is more of a discussion in terms of the benefits of explosive exercises versus the benefits of controlled exercises.
Well, right out the gates, I think it's important that you learn the proper mechanics of a strict press before you decide to incorporate a push press. Just like I would say in any explosive movements, I think getting down the proper movement first before you decide to do anything explosive. Because what's going to happen with a push press where you're allowed to use your legs, inevitably you're going to be able to do more weight, and you're also at a greater risk because you're doing that. And if you haven't learned to do a good strict press really well, allowing someone to increase their weight and use their lower body, you're putting them at a greater risk. So I will always teach a strict press first and get them to really understand the mechanics of that and keeping their lower body in a fixed position while they press the bar over their head.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to figure out like how to properly stabilize that weight first, and also where your range of motion lies and what kind of mobility you have with that exercise. And a strict press is going to be one of those you want to really fine tune that process of where your threshold is, where your mobility lies, and then basically just try as hard as you can to stabilize that process of the joint so it allows for that that strength to be able to get to that ultimate height of that mobility. So when you're adding more variables to this process, it's going to create more opportunities for there to be deficiencies in that process. And so that's why power, I mean, we're always trying to kind of stress power as like, this is something you're working up towards when you have everything working harmoniously together. Because now if we include the legs, we include, the hip hinging effect, we're creating more ground forces. You're producing a lot more force intrinsically in order to be able to kind of explosively lift this weight over your head. There's more danger potentially with that type of a pressing movement.
So since it's the strict press is a regression or prerequisite to the push press, when I teach a strict press, two of the main cues that I tend to reiterate to the client that I'm teaching, one of those being I like them to squeeze their glutes really tight. And so they're squeezing their butt almost as if they're like pressing their pelvis forward, right? As they press up over their head. So their butt is squeezed, they press the bar over their head, and then they pull their head through the window. Most common mistakes I see when people push press, one of them is the arching of their low back and looking up at the bar. And when you finish a strict press or a push press for that matter, when you completely get full extension, that bar should be up above your head, and your arms and shoulders should be aligned with your ears, and the bar shouldn't be out in front of you. So cueing the glutes to be squeezed will help align the lower body, pulling the head through the window, or which is your two arms, pulling your head through that and making sure the bar is above you is a nice way to align your upper body so you have a nice alignment when you fully extend. It also is reinforcing the prime movers when you get into a push press. So when you get a push press, you have a slight bend in your knee and you use a little legs to help generate that momentum. Well, that momentum comes from the glutes firing forward and exploding you up and then pushing the arms through. So teaching the strict press and exaggerating the squeezing of the butt while they also press over their head, I think has been a staple cue that I teach clients.
Yeah, by the way, when you bring your head through the top of the press, you're not looking down. That's a common thing that people do. They try to go through the window.
Or extending your neck out.
You're just pressing straight over your head, and so you kind of move your head forward to do that. The two places people hurt themselves on a push press typically or their lower back. Adam addressed that. Squeeze the glutes, brace your core. And here's a second place that people hurt themselves with push press: their shoulders. Now, why? Part of the reason why is when people do their strict overhead presses, they don't bring the bar all the way down to their upper chest. So they tend to stop right below their chin, or worse, at eye or nose level when they're doing a strict press. And then they go and they try to do a push press, and they bring the bar down, trying to suspend it under their chin or at their nose, and then they do this boost. And what ends up happening with the boost is the bar drops down lower while they're doing the boost, hurts their shoulder.
It's creating a lot more forces there for you to eccentrically kind of load.
You have to be able to, before you can do a good push press, you have to be able to brace your body with the bar sitting on your upper chest. Otherwise, a push press becomes dangerous. So you should feel comfortable with the bar sitting on your upper chest with your elbows underneath, nice tight form. You should feel comfortable there before you even attempt a push press. Now, here's what I like about a push press. It builds a lot of strength and a lot of muscle. Yeah. I can progress my weight on a push press faster than I can with a strict overhead press. And I notice big muscle gains with a push press, maybe even more so than I do with a strict press, probably because I'm activating my central nervous system more fully. I'm using my whole body. I also see a lot of carryover from the push press to sports. So if you're an athlete, and of course, again, those prerequisites are met. You have good positioning, good form, good stability. You can rest the bar on your chest with good balance. Your core is tight, no low back problems. You can pull your head through. You got everything right. The push press is going to make you more effective on the field in comparison to a strict press, because sports are never with these controlled kind of movements. It's typically explosive.
Yeah.
And this more closely mimics that.
Well, what I love about like how it compartmentalizes like one movement that's like very explosive. And so it's like it helps you to really like narrow down that process of control. And so on the field, you're moving explosively and you're trying to react in so many different directions. A lot of times where the training process, and this is why I really like the actual training that goes into specific sports, because the most of the process that we're really trying to refine has to do with like decelerating and being able to control like all these like maximal force outputs that you're putting out. But now how do I safely and bring it back under control and slow down that process and bring myself back into composure? And so like just isolating now a press and being able to move that as explosively as possible, and then, bring it back under control. Like that's something that if I nail that down, now I can work on another, movement that I can work under control. And it's like, I can start building upon these skills, which then now, helps me with the overall, because sports itself, it's a really complicated process. Like there's so many explosive moving parts that are continuously happening on the field, and or wherever you are. If you're in basketball and you're playing a game, like you're jumping all the time, you're slowing down, you're cutting, you're moving. And so like to be able like to not work on train on moving explosively is to your detriment.
Right. And here's a side note. One thing about the overhead press, whether you do a strict press or push press, if you do it right, a lot of people don't realize this, but it really does a good job of developing the upper back too. It's not just a shoulder exercise. That top position of the press is really good for posture if you do it right, and good for the musculature of the upper back. Here's the other thing too with the push press. I don't like to push my sets as hard with a push press as I would with a strict press. Now, here's what I mean by that. With a push press, a little bit of speed is involved. There's explosiveness involved. And like all explosive movements, you want to be able to train them for their explosivity. And that doesn't happen when I train all the way to fatigue. So I will take a strict press to 1 or 2 reps before failure. But a push press, I may stop 4 or 5 reps before failure, because what I'm training a push press for is explosive power. And so I'm practicing that power. So what I'm doing is I'm going and I'm getting into my position, and then boom, I drive it up, and then I bring it back down, and then boom. And then when I notice I lose that explosiveness, when I lose that pop, I stop the set, I rest, and then I do it again. So these exercises should be treated differently in that regard as well. I like to consider these as almost two different exercises. Now, if you want to do them both in the same workout, which you can do, I would go push press first, and then I would do the strict press afterwards. That would probably be the better combination. I don't think the other way around would work quite as well.
Yeah.
All right, next question is from Eat Pretty Food. When trying to lose fat, is progressive overload important, or is a caloric deficit the only thing that really matters?
That's a good question.
You know, it is a good question because this comes from, I think, a lot of the social media stuff that's always talking about everything is a calorie deficit when it comes to fat loss. It's all that matters. All that matters is calories in versus calories out. But and there's truth to that absolutely calories in, calories out, and law of thermodynamics.
That has to happen.
Right, has to happen. But that doesn't mean that progressive overload is not an important process when it comes to building muscle or assisting you in losing body fat.
No, here's what happens when your body is at a caloric deficit. In other words, you're taking in less calories than you're burning. Your body will do one of two things, or both. It'll burn the stored energy that it has. So body fat, that's what you want. Or it will pare its own muscle down to become more efficient so that you burn less calories to make up the difference. Oftentimes it's both. In fact, studies show that when people just diet, in other words, they just have a caloric deficit and they lose, let's say, 10 pounds, about half of that weight is muscle. Now, what does that end up turning into? A slower metabolism. This is why when people just diet, they lose weight, half of it being muscle, and then it becomes harder and harder for them to continue to lose weight. And then it becomes very difficult to keep it off because now they're only consuming, 1,000 less calories than they were before just to maintain their body weight. So I would say that progressive overload or lifting weights and getting stronger is just as important because otherwise you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you can get stronger, or at the very least, tell your body to preserve muscle while you're at a caloric deficit, that's going to make all the difference in the world. This is the difference between burning body fat and burning muscle. That's the big difference between the two.
Well, this is also the difference too of like when we look at studies by themselves versus like taking context and why context matters, and we always talk about that because in just a study that's designed for fat loss, absolutely the main thing that matters is the caloric deficit, but there's other factors like you're just saying right now. You make your life much easier if you're also building muscle during this time too, because then you have the automatic burn that's going to assist in the fat loss versus what you're just referring to is that you keep losing, and you do lose some muscle and pare that down. The metabolism is inevitably slowing down also. So if your ultimate goal is to burn body fat, then you're only going to help yourself out by getting stronger and building more muscle.
Yeah, here's a magic scenario. It's very difficult to do, but I've seen it happen before, and I've done it with clients. Here's a magic scenario. Yeah, you reduce your calories, and your body responds by burning body fat, and you speed up your metabolism. Holy cow! And I've seen this. I've had clients where we're cutting their calories, and I actually have to start bumping their calories because they start losing weight too fast, and they continue to lose weight. This is because we're building muscle. We're telling the body, hey, we need this muscle. We need strength. Don't slow down your burn, even though you're taking in less and less calories. If you cut that out, what you're going to be left with is a slow metabolism that starts to adapt in a way that makes it very difficult. So here's what ends up happening. Let's say you start at a 500 calorie deficit. Okay, in other words, you're eating 500 less calories than you're burning. Eventually, even though you're eating the same amount of food, that 500 calorie deficit becomes a 200 calorie deficit. Then it becomes a 100 calorie deficit. Then it becomes maintenance. Now you're left with 10 pounds down on the scale, 5 pounds of it being muscle, and now you're stuck. What do you do now? Drop even more? At some point, you get down to 0. And before that, you get to a point where you can't even handle anymore because it's too little food.
This is why training matters. I mean, this is why that needs to be in the conversation. Like, to be able to preserve muscle, we got to train a specific way that's going to promote strength, and it's going to preserve that muscle, even if it's not building because you're not replenishing this with all of the calories like you would normally consume. Versus, okay, what's the other scenario, right? Versus like, I'm going to circuit train. I'm going to do things more based off of like cardiovascular output. You're going to have a totally different result with that style of training in combination with, lowering your calorie intake.
No, trying to get stronger and build muscle is just as important for the person interested in fat loss as it is for the person who's interested in just trying to build muscle and get stronger. No joke. So you have two people with completely different goals. Person one, hey man, I just want to lose 30 pounds of body fat. Person two, I want to get stronger and build more muscle. Guess what? They're both equally important that both of them try to build muscle. For one person, it's because that's their goal, obviously. For the other person, it's so that we can keep the fat loss happening. It's so that we can keep your fat loss all the way until you get down to that 30 pounds and keep your calories at a point where it's totally sustainable. So it's just as important, and I wish this was in the conversation more, because it usually isn't in weight loss circles. They don't talk about this, but if you don't do this, good luck. I tell you what, you're going to have a tough time.
There's plenty of methods to just burn calories. I mean, that's the easiest part of training, is to figure out how many calories I can burn just by rigorously moving. This is the part of it that we need to bring in. If you are desiring a physique that also has muscle and is lean in body fat.
And sustainable.
It's sustainable.
In fact, oftentimes what I would do with clients who were in this situation is when they start to cut calories, I would put them in a strength phase. Mm-hmm. I would actually prioritize strength in their training more than almost anything else, just to prevent the inevitable metabolic slowdown that happens from a calorie deficit. Remember, your body's always trying to survive. It always wants to be more efficient. So if you're eating less calories, your body's got to figure something out. While it's burning its insurance policy, which is body fat, it's thinking to itself, we got to make up the difference. We can't keep at this anymore. This person's only eating 1,500 calories. We're burning 2,000 calories. You know what we're going to do? We're going to burn 1,500 calories. That way we're back at balance again, and maybe even burn less than 1,500 calories so we can pack on a little bit more body fat. So what you do is you throw another signal at it, and the signal says, we need to get stronger. So now your body's like, okay, I know we're eating a little bit of calories, but we got this strength building signal that's being sent to us that we need muscle. So at the very least, we're not going to get rid of any muscle. Sometimes we actually build muscle. And this is where you see and this is more common in beginners, but this is where sometimes you see, I'll have a client come in and they'll, it will be 3 months into a program. And this is a person who wants to lose 15 pounds. And 3 months later, they've lost 6 pounds. But then I'll do a body fat test and I'll be like, well, you actually lost 10 pounds because you gained 4 pounds of muscle while losing 10 pounds of body fat. What a great position to be in. And the only way you can be in that position is if you give your body a reason, and that's progressive overload.
Next question is from Like a Stranger. You guys talk about running a lot, but what about walking? What are some pointers you can give to walk correctly and some signs that you are walking incorrectly?
Well, one sign that you're walking incorrectly is if you have aches and pains. If your low back starts to bother you. This is common. This was actually common for me. I've talked about my issues before with my low back, way back before I was addressing a lot of my mobility, my ankle mobility, and my hip mobility. If I walked for a long period of time or I stood still for a long period of time, my low back would just be on fire. So first signs that you're walking incorrectly are, aches and pains. Mm-hmm. Some people will notice the inside of their knee is really common because a lot of people pronate, and that causes the femur to internally rotate and just kind of throws your knees caving in. And so a lot of people will notice like stress on the inside of their knee or outside of their knee because their IT is tight. So, knee pain, hip pain, low back pain, these are all common areas that you could be tight, and it's probably because you're walking incorrectly. You have a lack of mobility in your hips or your ankle, which is causing a lot of that. So that's the first thing. And walking correctly, God, I don't know if we're ever there, right? I'm always trying to be very mindful when I'm walking and paying attention to even my own gait.
Well, I think you bringing that up, like in terms of it being an assessment, like that's something that I've always used. Just watching somebody walk, maybe it's like 20 yards and then coming back. It's so revealing. It's just revealing because we're asking you now to do something that is natural to you on a daily basis. Like this is how you move. And you can see right away where your body you don't see it personally because you don't watch yourself. But having somebody else kind of look at, some things that are happening with your posture and your gait and everything else, that's where the compensations lie, where the imbalances lie. you can then address that with your mobility practices and build a better movement pattern, and that will in turn, then cross over into your actual walking will improve.
Yeah, here's why I like walking so much, because that's the one form of activity that I recommend everybody do a lot of. Here's why I like it so much. Of all of the physical pursuits that we do as modern humans, there's one that we still do, and that's walk. So like if I tell somebody to throw something or run or jump, I'm going to have a lot of people do things really, really bad and really, really wrong. But at least we've all been walking. At least, and maybe not that much, but at least we've all been walking. The biggest problems are people who walk a lot wearing heels or wearing funny shoes. That's where you get a lot of the problems. But walking is probably general, and this is general because there's individual variances here. Generally speaking, walking's about the safest form of activity that you can ask almost anybody to do on a regular basis. Again, because we've been practicing it. We still practice it till this day. The only thing we do better than walking in modern societies is sitting. But we still walk. So I tell people to walk all the time. And if you hurt, then start to pay attention why you hurt. Work on your foot, ankle mobility, hip mobility. Strength training takes care of a lot of these issues. But yeah, go for it. Look, if you're somebody that wants to burn more calories and you're thinking about running, I'd say, you know what? Instead of run, just walk more. It makes a better difference because, again, we tend to do that a little bit better. And the way I like to do it, and here's where you get a lot of the problems with walking. So when people start to walk a lot and they start to have issues with walking, it usually comes from singular long bouts of walking. It's usually not because the person's walking throughout the day. So what I mean by that is you can either say, okay, I want to have 15,000 steps a day and try and hit most of that in 1, 2, or 3 hour walking session, or you could try to walk more throughout the whole day. Walking all at once, the risk of injury and the risk of pain is much higher because as you start to fatigue, you start to move differently. You start to move in ways that are not optimal. Walking throughout the day, that doesn't happen as much. And so I'll tell people to have more practices that include walking throughout the whole day. So park farther from work, take the stairs, take your phone, put it far away from you. So every time you want to check your phone, you have to get up and walk to it. It sounds silly, but when you add it all up throughout the entire day, and you could try this yourself, get yourself a step counter and start paying attention to these things. Like, okay, I'm not going to take the elevator. I'm going to park at the end of the parking lot. For lunch, I'm going to walk to the place instead of drive to the place. And then start paying attention and counting your steps. And you'd be surprised at how big of a difference it makes in terms of your total steps taken throughout the day.
Well, something I also noticed too when I was training people, when we would go down and we do like a what do they call those? A bird dog. And something like that where we're working on like left to right movement and like coordinating your right arm with your left leg, your left arm with your right leg. There was a deficiency there. There was this cross-sectional firing wasn't really optimal. And so that was something like if like I was to narrow it down to a few exercises where we're doing crawling patterns or we're doing these types of movements where you're trying to coordinate small steps in that direction. That's something that you could work on because of that anti-rotation rotation relationship where we're trying to walk with that minimal rotation, but also like have that communication open line, like that it's an open line between both sides like that. So I saw that a lot like when I was training clients is there's a deficiency there in that movement process.
Yeah, the whole body's involved in walking, by the way. So you could have issues with your posture, and that could cause problems with walking. I know people who will get tired in their mid-back, not even their low back. They'll get mid-back tightness or tightness in their neck because of the way they're holding their shoulders. So there isn't one like specific area I can tell you to focus on. I guess the most common ones are your foot, ankle mobility, hip mobility, and core stability. Would be the more common ones.
Well, if you're wonky and you don't have any pain, right? If you feel good, if you can go for 5,000-10,000 steps and not feel any aches or pains, you're probably in a better position than most. And we wrote guides for this and we wrote programs for this. This is if I had somebody who's like, Adam, every time I go for a walk longer than 20 minutes, my knees or my back or my ankles or my upper back or my neck all starts hurting, I would push them over into our MAPS Prime Pro program. I would say go through there and start addressing the joints that are closest to that area. So if I got knee pain, I'm going to point them in the direction of ankle and hips. And I'm going to tell them to address hip and ankle mobility before they go for their walks and start to make that a habit and a routine before you do this. So like what Sal's alluding to right now is it's really hard there's so many things that could throw the gate off. I mean, Justin's talking about anti-rotational stuff. I'm talking about ankle and hip mobility. Sal's talking about the forward head and the upper cross. I mean, all this stuff.
Lots involved with the kinetic chain.
Yeah, there is a ton. And like Sal said, when you're walking, it's the entire body. So all of it affects each other. So the real answer is if you can walk, you should walk. We encourage walking. In fact, we encourage walking over running. And so I always promote more steps through as we progress through somebody's program. But if you're noticing aches and you're noticing pains, which is common, then one of the best things you can invest in is MAPS Prime Pro, and then to start addressing the major joints in the body and working on mobilizing them before you go for your walk, and watch and pay attention to how much it improves it.
Next question is from Megan Moraga. I have a client who complained to my boss that my workouts are slow. She's used to boot camp style classes. My boss and other trainers said I should just kill her with circuits every time. I tried explaining the importance of rest periods, but no one listened. What should I do?
All right, well,
stick to your guns.
I remember this too as a trainer. It's a tough position to be in because you have your integrity. You know what the client should be doing, but then you have the client who's saying, this is what I want, and they're a paying customer. And so your boss is like, give her what she wants. She's paying you to train her. Here's where being an exceptional trainer comes into play. Your goal is to make your client think she wants the slower workouts.
Right.
That's your goal. Your goal is not to tell her it's my way or the highway, but to rather convince her that the workouts that you're doing are the ones that she really wants to do. Now, how do you do this? You got to be able to communicate this very effectively. Worst case scenario, you can tell her, I might not be the trainer for you. And you can tell your boss, look, I don't want to hurt this person. This is the wrong kind of workouts. Maybe she could work with someone else. But best case scenario is you explain this to her. I had many clients like this that would come to me and they'd tell me, I didn't get sore last time, and I want to work out harder. And so I'd explain to them, look, we could do things the wrong way or we can do them the right way. Let me explain why this is the right way. And if you trust me now, I'll never have to ask you for your trust again. And I would explain it. And I'll explain the process of working on mobility and stability, how we're setting the stage for future success, how the long process is not as long as people think. That's the thing too. Sometimes I say, doing it the right way might take a little bit longer. People are like, well, I don't have 5 years to wait. Okay, look, it's not going to take 5 years. It might take a couple months longer at most for most people, but your results will be far more permanent. And doing it the wrong way may actually prevent you from getting to your goals. Like if this is somebody who's overstressed, overworked, not getting enough sleep, and they want the beat up, beat down type workouts, that may actually be what's preventing their bodies from progressing.
This is the angle that I tend to take. So opposed spending so much time proving why the way I want to train you is the better way, I spend more time enlightening you on why training that way could be so detrimental. So instead of like me trying to sell you on why us slowing down and long rest periods, why that's so good, I'm constantly explaining all the pitfalls that come with, training high intensity and circuit-based type classes and the type of person that is. And if you're good and if you're an effective communicator, your client, you kind of know the hot buttons for them, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, if I know I have this client who's sitting in front of me and I know she's a high performer, she's an executive at some company, I know she works 16-hour days, like I'm going to speak to her, but I'm gonna do it in a general sense and like this. I'm gonna say things like, clients that I get that are attracted to the boot camp mentality are typically my type A personalities. It's because they love that. They love that push. They love that drive. They love the way they feel afterwards. Well, the thing is, they don't know why they love it, though. The reason why they love it is because the spike of cortisol. We call these cortisol junkies, and these are the reasons why this isn't good for their bodies. So I'm talking about her, but I'm doing it in general ways, so it doesn't feel like I'm attacking her. But in a way, I'm going to kind of make her scared to want to train that way and enlighten her on the pitfalls that come with training this way, and then explain to her that those types of people are far better off training in the way like this, and then explaining what Sal was about to explain, which is all the benefits of doing the straight sets and the long rest periods and building muscle and strength and trying to rebuild the metabolism. So this really falls on. And here's the thing: when you're a young early trainer, it's really easy for us to sit here in our ivory tower and talk about, saying this conversation. I get it. I know why it's hard. It was hard for me too, especially in the first 5 years when I didn't have the words, I didn't have the vocabulary, I didn't have the experience to explain it to them really well. So I get the challenge, and this can be extremely challenging when you're trying to juggle, hey, I'm trying to build a business here. I need clients. I'm also in a service-based business, so I have to kind of give them what they want. So like Sal said, your goal is to lead them to want that for you. And that you should take that on as a challenge yourself. Instead of getting in an argument or a fight with your boss or your client or getting in a battle, I'm challenging myself as a trainer. How can I be a better communicator to get this person to want that? It's like I always talk about the difference between a good closer and a great closer. A good closer, sure, you can overcome all the objections, make her feel stupid and push her into a sale or push her into the right way training. But a great closer, a great trainer can pull her into that by asking the right questions and explaining the right information to her. That should be your goal, is educating yourself on all the pitfalls that come with this way of training. So she hears all that and she goes, oh shit, no, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to train that way. If you're telling me training this way equals this, oh, that doesn't align with my goals. Like, oh, okay, well, tell me what I should do instead.
Explain how the body adapts, and it adapts to the type of workouts that you're doing, and explain the signals that you're sending to the body. And if this person has too much stress, not getting enough sleep, and it's inappropriate to train them with these super high intensity boot camp type classes and circuits, then what you'll say to her is, look, throwing more high intensity stress at your body is going to make it want to hold on to more body fat. Yeah. Because our bodies evolved where if we were under lots and lots of stress, body fat is like a safety mechanism. It's an insurance. And so your body's going to want to keep that body fat. It's going to make it that much harder to burn that body fat. I remember, gosh, when I first started training, this was hard for me. The first thing I used to do is I would just give them what they wanted. So I remember clients would come to me when I first became a trainer, and they'd tell me, I like these kind of workouts, this is what I want, and then that's what I would do. Later on, when I started learning, like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this person should be doing something different, there was another tactic I used, which was almost just as bad, where the client would tell me, I want a hard workout, and I'd be like, all right, I'll show you a hard workout. And I'd
make them punish them for it.
Yeah, and I'd beat the crap out of them so bad that they would wish that they never had a hard workout again. Yeah. That was another terrible strategy. I don't recommend you do that.
I went down that same path for a while too, and kind of worked my way through that. But really, just I found highlighting myself as an example, because it was something I was guilty of. Really, always seeking the higher intensity style workouts and getting something where I felt like I just got beat up, within that session. And that was something that drove me in my workouts. It was like a punishing type of mentality. And so this is something I tried to communicate to all my clients that had that same sort of drive, and they came in with that same kind of energy into the workouts. And, at some point I hit a wall. I plateaued completely, and now my progress completely went the other direction. And so it's like, you got to, we can prevent this, and you kind of come in with that sort of foot where it's like, I can prevent this and learn, teach you what I've learned that works the best, for what you're trying to achieve. And this is what that looks like. It doesn't look like what you think.
Yeah. I had this one guy this is a long time ago, who just, I'm not sore, I want to work out harder. I'm not sore, I want to work out harder. And he complained to my manager. This was obviously, this is over 20 years ago. And so I remember I got irritated and I said, okay, I'll take you through a hard workout. And he threw up. 30 minutes into the workout, he went and threw up, and I was so satisfied with myself. Like, that's what, that's what you wanted. That's what you get. And now you're not going to ask for a hard workout.
Yeah.
Terrible strategy.
It's a bad strategy.
Terrible strategy. I don't recommend
I do
doing
the same thing. Don't worry.
I mean, let them know, like, hey, look, I know you like these workouts, but they're not going to get you to your goals. They're not going to get you results.
Nope.
You're not going to burn body fat as effectively. Definitely not going to build muscle as effectively. Let's do this the right way so that you can get the goals that you want. And eventually, when you get to those goals, you can throw in some of those hard workouts, and they're not going to be so detrimental. But at this point right now, it's the exact opposite of what you should be doing. And with that, go to mindpumpfree.com and download any of our guides. They're all absolutely free. You can also find us all on Instagram. Justin is at mindpumpjustin. You can find me at mindpumpsal. And Adam is at mindpumpadam.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.